for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. If you're up and around, you're out and about, that number to call, if you're up and around, out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we'd like to remind you, or should we say FYI, the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit, or you can go to their website, rocketdigital.net. That's ROCKIT digital.net, and tell them the BSJ sent you. Joining us on the P-Program today is none other than my cat from the NYC, a.k.a. Rucker Park. Brother Rich, what's happening?
Sir, I'm so happy to be on your program at the very moment that the Miami Hurricanes are getting drubbed by the Oklahoma Sooners. It's a pleasurable day in Southern California.
Actually, yeah, I bet it is.
It's always an honor to be on.
Yeah, well, if you think that the Miami Hurricanes are getting drubbed by the Oklahoma Sooners, number one, I'm going to need you to leave that stuff, whatever y'all got on there, leave that alone. And number two is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oh, I'm surprised you missed that, seeing how you in love with Jerry's World. Yeah, exactly.
I stand correct.
Yeah, please correct yourself. And on the other side of the ledger, we got my man from up north, Joey James, a.k.a. Double J. Tell the people what you say.
Week 17. We couldn't have drawn this up any better. The Browns and your Cowboys have everything to play for.
You heard what the man said, right? So were you not paying attention either? The Miami Hurricanes are getting drubbed. I couldn't tell you. Oh, they playing the Cowboys. Oh, that's what that meant? Oh, okay, got you. Like I said, sent to you all in the text, you almost got me confused with that lame over there in L.A. talking about Cowboys fan. He the one that was kicking it with Terrell Owens. Or should I say sitting at an Indians game with a Yankees hat on, the front runner. Please, not hardly. Anybody that knows me know I don't run from the front or I don't run from the back. I don't run from it at all, Jack. I don't run from the grind. You understand? Holla at your boy. Before we get into some of this action today, I just wanted to point out to the people out there that's listening and the folks who follow us. As always, we say thank you. Heading into the new year, possibly, I send my condolences first and foremost to all of the people who have lost loved ones due to this unrelenting and unpredictable virus that we have been hit with in this country. I'm praying that the new year goes well, from start to finish for everybody. But we will be making some changes. We would definitely keep our schedule as best we can to Tuesdays at 8 o'clock p.m. But there's some behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on as far as, my 9 to 5 and things of that nature. And things will be may be changing for me as well. So we may have to make some adjustments in our days that we do the show and times and so on and so forth. But we will keep everybody abreast as we go along. Now, we have two subjects today, or two topics. The first one, of course, being our question of the day. And then we will get into the second one, which is a nice little segment or new segment that we like to throw out here to folks that we will try to keep going as we go along, and it's called Take Your Pick. But first things first, our question of the day. How do you grade today's NBA draft prospects in this current era of positionless basketball, Double J? But before you answer, let me be more specific. I say draft prospects, but I'd like to broaden that a little bit. And I mean just today's NBA players as a whole. If the era that they play in currently is being deemed, as I just mentioned, or termed positionless or positionless basketball, then how are we to measure or look at these guys as they come into the league, or guys that's already in the league, so to speak? Are we calling them what, just basketball players? Or even more crazy, I guess, we do these top lists, top 5, top 10, How can you do a top 10, top 5 point guards and at the same time the era of positionless basketball be true? How can they both be true at the same time? Double J, help me out here. Or am I just, about ready to jump out the plane at 50,000 feet with no parachute?
Well, my first recommendation was actually to make sure you're wearing a parachute.
Okay.
In the rationale behind this, we see it time and time again. It comes down to performance, but yet there's almost this Moneyball element to it. And this year specifically is a very good example of that. And where I'm going with all of this is you can look at a team like the Detroit Pistons that went very heavy in the draft in having 3 of the top 20 picks. And if you were to go to any box score, you would see varying minutes. We'll include another top 10 pick from the previous year, and you're seeing a very small sample size where you can almost guess, is there a disconnect between front office and head coach? Eerily reminiscent, of course, of Moneyball. On the other hand, you can look at examples like in Cleveland with the young man that they just drafted, and he could produce nearly zeros across all of that sheet, but yet receive 42 minutes of game time, or at the very minimum 24 minutes of game time. So it's all about philosophy and fit.
But okay, I'm glad you said that. But hold that thought right there. You mentioned Moneyball. Do you say it's Moneyball in or similar to Moneyball in terms of the monies that teams have to work with? Because if that's the case, I don't know. Going into that division series, we talk about Moneyball. The Oakland A's, their payroll compared to the Yankees' payroll was almost like I might be stretching it a bit here, like 7-1 almost. I mean, in other words, if the Yankees had $100 to spend, the A's had what, 35 cents? So are we saying that in terms of the monies that the franchises have, so to speak? Because it seems like most NBA franchises, even the lesser ones, still have more money than what the A's had to work with to acquire players and whatnot.
Well, and you bring up a valid point. I mean, we've talked about on this program that, and I've tried to pop this small market bubble time and time again, because as you alluded to, with that perfect example, that is not the case in the NBA. So there really is no legitimate discussion about we can't afford to attract free agents. Because, again, if it simply was everybody has to play within the same numerical parameters based on that salary cap.
Right.
And so what it comes to with grading these prospects is the hard truth in that bitter pill is that it is analytics based. It is based on raw talent in positionless basketball. But they still have to produce, and unfortunately, we also live in a what have you done for me lately type of society where you can look at countless prospects that have been, thrown to the side. Markelle Fultz is a very good example of that, where you're getting an 18 or 19-year-old kid and wanting them to produce at a prime age of maybe 26 or 27, and just doesn't happen with every single person. So I believe the point you're driving towards is that the system itself is flawed, and something has to change to be able to get the best result. Because right now, all you have to do is take one really good look at any particular game, and you're going to see a disaster of a product.
Yeah, not to mention that Nuggets and Rockets the other day. I don't even know. I didn't even look at the game clock in terms of, first quarter, second quarter, third, fourth. I don't know what quarter it was. I don't know how much time was left in the quarter. All I know is, Brother Rich, if you didn't see it, you need to go and take a look at the Nuggets Rockets and look at it was a comedy of errors for it's what felt like 55 minutes. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. And you look at both rosters, and I promise you, there are names on, take your pick, from either roster, there are names that you will hear if you watch the Talking Heads constantly when they talk about, is this guy the best guy since that guy and the other guy? And I'm thinking, well, all these household names and all these guys that are being compared to guys that I grew up watching, how in the world combined can they go 3 or 4 minutes without scoring? I'm so sick and tired of seeing one-and-done offensive possessions off the 3 ball. I'm sorry. That's just going to be a caveat of mine until the end of time. But to you, Brother Rich, the same question, of course. How do you grade today's NBA draft prospects in the current era of positionless basketball? And Double J, of course, I'll come back to you to finish your thought because there's something else I wanted to ask you in regards to where you were going with yours.
Well, I'm agreeing with you both. I'm picking up from what Double J left off when he said the issue of talent, when he talked about analytical talent. Now, I'm going to take a slightly different point of view in this argument, and here's where I'm going with this. And if you recall, you and I have talked about this off camera at times a few years ago. And I remember saying on this platform as well that one of the issues we have in NBA is that the players today are far more talented than they were before. Now, are they as developed as basketball players? Absolutely not. But here's what we have in today's NBA. And here's where I see the NBA has a potential where they're trying to make it go in the era of, as you put it, positionless basketball. Today's NBA, you could potentially have a team that has a 6'9" person, LeBron James, playing point guard, and his shooting guard could very well be a 6'11" Kevin Durant, and their small forward could be Anthony Davis, and their power forward could be
Paul Millsap.
A name.
Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap, and their center could be
Kendrick Perkins.
Pick another name.
Yeah.
You Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah.
And so we're talking now about them putting together teams where the best fit, the best player is there. We're drafting the best player, and we're making him, whether or not he has the skill set to be that or not. Because these players are being raised, as we know, and I've told you this, again off camera, I've said this to you, the issue to me is coaching, that the coaching and the systems have not kept up and have not developed these young men, because you're taking children. We're not developing them anymore. We're taking children, we're putting them in a rush program called AAU that's not developing them fundamentally. So this is why you can watch basketball games like you discussed just now, where players can be on the court for literally 7-minute stretches and score 10 points. How do the Los Angeles Clippers? I didn't even watch the game you were talking about. I only watched the games on Christmas Day. I told you.
Oh
on
yeah,
the
I forget. Yeah, the Clippers lost by 700 points.
27 points in a half, and those gentlemen are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play a game that you and I and Double J and the listeners ran up and down for free, and our parents or wherever we were, the people at the foster home, wherever you were, had to call you in. If it was the prison yard, they had to call you in because you enjoyed it so much, and you were not going to have 27 points at half. And they had 27 points, and Paul George, who was one of my favorite players, could say, the loss is on me. Come on, man. The loss is on me. That's all I get for $100 million? You're supposed to be upset. What are we talking about here? So, but this is the attitude. It's about the money. It's about the this. And this is why we're talking about cultures. What is the culture of the Miami Heat? If you come here, you play hard, we're working hard. This is a serious business. Yes, we're family, but we got an objective we're trying to achieve every year. Hate it or love it, it's a different kind of culture than exists in most of the NBA today. So in the era of positionless basketball, to answer your question, I don't know if we judge the talent by who developed the fastest. Because some of them take 2 years, but if you don't develop like LeBron, if we don't all get LeBron, if we don't all get Kobe, if we don't all get Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, we're ready to dismiss them. Double J pointed out Markel Fultz and other young. This is what I think is happening with Ben Simmons. Some people, maybe on this platform, believe Ben Simmons is a bust, but Ben Simmons, to some of us, just has not had any good coaching.
Imagine that. So in other words, not in other words, then do we look at players? Well, I've often said that regardless of the sport, especially the NFL and NBA, I can't really speak to Major League Baseball because they do stuff a little bit different. You know, having a minor league, you know, a guy could be down in the minor league for 10 years, 12, 15 years. But because they are underdeveloped, then why are people so quick to label a guy a bust or whatnot? Shouldn't we, I mean, I've said you can't really look at a player or assess a player until he's been in the league at least 3 years. At least 3 years. Then you kind of know, okay, which direction you're going to go. These guys, for the most part, I mean, how many top draft picks have we seen in the last 5 years be on 12 different teams in less than 2 or 3 years? You didn't see that when we was coming up. If a guy like John Stockton, John Stockton got drafted in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. But how long was he with the Utah Jazz? And I mean, of course, you know, again, my era was a little bit more different when it came term to skill set and things of that nature. But I mean, come on, man. We've seen too many top picks, you know, going into it. Oh, this guy going to be, and then people are asking the question. Everything is so instant gratification and premature. That's my point to all of it. The question is, oh, he's the next this or he's the next that. Then when he don't turn out to be that, it's like, man, he was a this and he was a that. I mean, come on now. If we understand that the guys are not being developed, then what expectations should we have? We shouldn't have any. Not at least the first year.
You're bringing up a good point, which is what I'm coining capitalism versus coaching.
Okay.
On the capitalism side, as you're pointing out, both from the mind of the player, which is to reach the highest level, and really on draft day is actually a very good indication of that. Their mindset, you'll see some people that draft moment was what they worked toward in for. That was their mountaintop. Versus I'm going to come in here and now I'm going to work harder than I ever have to be a champion, to be legendary in the game of basketball. Now, part of that mindset comes from the AAU, which we've had coaches, you know, part of that machine on the program, and they've even stated we don't upset this particular player. We're judged off of wins and losses. That's how our machine keeps, you know, turning. Now, additionally, within capitalism, it means the expansion of the game itself. Again, the global game, something that we've been force-fed time and time again. We're beginning to see the results and return of that global outreach.
Well, China is still not happy.
Players.
China is still not happy, but go ahead. I'm telling you.
And so with that in mind, what you're beginning to see, because again, just like soccer was in the United States, 50 years ago, it is just like that in the last 30 years, maybe with basketball for the majority of Europe and Africa and just outside of the United States as a whole. And instead, what we began to see, because again, they had a raw product and they understood to truly mold it, it meant to teach what? It meant to, first of all, coach, and it meant to coach fundamentals of the game. So what you're beginning to see, and this is what I've been screaming from rooftops on this program for the better part of a year and a half now, is that you're going to start seeing the U.S. lose to either not necessarily inferior teams anymore, where it was deemed an upset, but more fundamentally sound teams. Again, hustle beats talent if talent doesn't hustle.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that before too. Bob Nance used to say that. If somebody else maybe have coined it, but I heard he's the first person I heard say, "Talent, hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard." But see, here's the thing. I think to me, for me, and which is I'm gonna add a few more tidbits to the question. Are we grading the guy by his ceiling, or are we grading the guy by his measurables, or by his ability? Because nowadays it doesn't seem to be we grading the guys by how they think the game. Because I tell you what, brain will overrule brawn any day. You can be the most athletic, you can be the fastest, you can run, you can jump high, you can have all those things. But I tell you what, I'm going to outthink you. It's called the art of war for a reason. If I outthink you, that negates all of your physical attributes. True or false? Oh, okay.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Whoa. So a guy like Larry Bird was not the fastest by no stretch of the imagination. And he didn't have to deal with these guys nowadays.
No. Because here's where your argument loses its tenor. Because any argument that starts with Larry Bird that does not factor in how talented he was, not just how smart. That man worked hard to be a fantastic basketball player. And see what this is part of it. This is what Double J is pointing out to us.
Right, but wait, but his best asset, but Larry Bird's best asset was his mind.
No, there is no doubt. There is no doubt about it.
That's what I'm saying.
The same thing could be said about Magic. The same thing could be said about Magic Johnson, but it can't be said about a lot of other players in the league. Because Magic worked on his game too. He loved the game, but the best thing about him was Magic Johnson revolutionized the game of basketball in your era as well. In all the eras that when he came through, he revolutionized the idea that a man that size could play that position that had been played by smaller guys before and could see the floor in that way, make those kind of passes that we had not seen since Bob Cousy. They hadn't been seen since Bob Cousy's days. He was making this kind of move on the basketball court. And the biggest thing about him was he had fun doing it. He had so much fun doing it that his mode of doing it was nicknamed Showtime. I don't think that we can overlook the fact that was a combination of things going on with him that made them so successful. But talent definitely was one of them. But his number one attribute was he was a thinker on the basketball court.
That's what I'm saying. So again, we grade these guys by their. A lot of say, well, who you hear that often? Whose ceiling is the highest? Or he's 6'9" or he's 6'8". But we're not grading guys by their thought process. Is my point nowadays. That's the point I'm making. The era we grew up in, you had to think the game. Because guess what?
But we were taught the game a different way, Jay. In your era, the typical point guard in high school 25 years ago, Patrick Ewing, or 30 years ago, Patrick Ewing, when he came into the NBA, we knew what he was coming into the NBA to play. Center. We knew that. We knew what Michael Jordan was coming into the NBA to play. Shooting guard, because at that time he was 6'6". You had reached that size. But prior to that, we understood what you're coming into play. After that, and when we got the era of Magic Johnson, well, he began to introduce us to, wait a minute, but that was an anomaly for the longest while. But in today's game, when you got somebody like Giannis shooting three-pointers on a regular, not where he has a literal three-point percentage, where you have to consider him in some circumstances that he might take this shot. And he, in your era, in my era, in our era, he was a center. We centers don't take three-pointers. You laugh at Patrick Ewing if he thought he was going to take a three-pointer.
Yeah.
Artist Gilmore taking a three-pointer.
Or Moses
Kareem
Malone, no.
Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone,
no.
Centers didn't do that.
No.
Moses Malone was struggling to play center at 6'11", and he was phenomenal because he could. do it at that. And the center was that person that stood down in the middle and received the ball and was tried to stay out the paint for 3 seconds. So you had to keep him going in and out with whatever motion you had going on the court because you couldn't stay in there for longer than 3 seconds.
Okay,
so these are the kinds of things that we understood.
Okay, so then again, why, if we can't grade these guys on their thought process or thinking the game now in the Today BA, why are people making comparisons to those guys who did think the game?
Because the only thing we have to go with is what's in this era. And that's where we sound like old men to young people, because we want things to be the way they were in our era, and we have to accept. And this is what I've been saying to some people for years about this is LeBron's era. We have to admit that this is the era of the NBA that LeBron.
Oh, you mean the
James
same guy that got to get
and
double-fisted? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What'd you say?
No. We're talking about his era. We have to acknowledge that this has been his era and that there's things that have come with his era. Some of them we might like and some of them we might not like. But there are elements of what he's brought that definitely mark this period of time and say, okay, this is during the LeBron era. Like we now have the Jordan era. We had the Kobe era. We have the LeBron era now. And the question becomes, who will take on the mantelpiece after the quote-unquote king, as he's now? His era is called. This is the King James era. We had the Air Jordan era. We had Bird and Magic brought the league back. This is the history of the modern-day NBA.
Whoa. I was with you all the way up until you said Bird and Magic brought the league back. I think it's one caveat to that.
This is what we're...
One caveat, though.
You're talking about Dr. J.
Absolutely.
But here's what happened.
But hold on. Let me get this out, Brother Rich, because when we had this discussion, people, when we had this discussion, we talk about everybody else, and Doc gets mentioned every now and again. Well, he gets mentioned by people like us because we got to see him. But we talking about the type of impact he had on not just the NBA and ABA, but basketball in general from a professional standpoint. This dude is responsible for bringing 4 or 5 teams over to the NBA.
Yeah, he brought a whole league.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying. Shout out to my man Doc at the Record Park.
When we
okay.
check the tape, pull the tape. We said that when we discussed that on this program. We said, matter of factly, that the most overlooked person in modern NBA history is Dr. J, because his contributions are vastly overlooked. That's been said on this platform numerous times, and we certainly are a part of the group that agrees with that. So I definitely understand Dr. J's contribution. But the NBA itself says that Bird and Magic, this modern NBA of advertisement, remember now, this is where...
Yeah, because Doc was the first one for that, too. Advertisements. He was the first man Coca-Cola put him on.
But remember now, in Magic and Bird's era, there was something different about them. You had
no
the
question.
Black player, the white player.
Yeah.
You had all the dynamics that fit into making basketball. In Doc's era, games just had started to come on primetime television. In Bird and Magic's era, that's when NBA Finals was primetime TV every year. Fact.
Yeah,
and
but
we have our marketing guy on. I think he can tell us something about that.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I thought early on in Magic's them, and it still was on tape delay, wasn't it? They didn't start really going to. I mean, I know. I understand what you're saying.
That's exactly right. That's at the beginning. That's
okay,
exactly
at the beginning,
right. That's why I'm saying they ushered that in.
Okay.
They ushered that in, that era where the Stern, he brought that in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got D. Gully from the CO Bus with us. Gully, what's the deal?
Everything. How you guys doing?
Oh man,
I just had to wrap up.
You need to.
I had to wrap up a session. Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith, they just left, man. They had a major big party here. It caused a power outage, so sorry for the delay. All that noise we were making up here, being the official, I guess, Buffalo Bills satellite depot out of Columbus. So sorry for that, you guys. We're all ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, as per Chris Berman. But I will say this, that run defense for the Bills might cost them in the playoffs. Even though Josh Allen and my man Diggs Stephon Diggs is balling. My goodness, my knees, that guy's balling. But there's no problem with their offense in that regard. But that run defense, they 27th in terms of run against percentage, or however you want to put that. So we'll see how it goes down. And then, which I thought was just, I was watching NFL Network. They asked they asked the question. Come on, man, this is what I do, man. I told you I'm not vested in these sports no more. It's just something I do. I don't run to the TV like I used to. I used to be a time where
you was on their bandwagon for a little while.
No, I wasn't. No.
I was. Understand they got about to face reality.
No, I'm not on anybody's bandwagon. We do a sports talk show here. Okay, I'm trying to make it so that we stand out above all others and are not amongst the rest. Excuse me. I do my best. But anyway, I don't get credit for that. But it's fine. I don't need it. Thank you very much. My name is always in lights, baby. Check it out. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Gully, I'm going to ask you the same question, of course, that I asked the two gentlemen here, 10 Speed and Brown Shoe, a little earlier. How do you grade today's NBA draft prospects in this current era of positionless basketball? And then after you answer, I'm going to go back around and ask everybody, give me one word answer. How do we grade today's players? But again, you can go ahead and answer the question, Gully, if you would first.
Man, I tell you what, that's as tough a question as I've ever had. How do you grade them in the era of?
Well, I don't get no credit. I don't get no credit for burning the midnight oil, coming up with these stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I get harassed. You know what I'm saying, about false and outlandish claims. But anyway, go ahead. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I mean that's as tough a question from someone who watches the game, who's not actively a coach, because that is a definitive coach's question, because I'm not certain how you would grade them. I mean, but because of positionless basketball, I would look to things that would kind of show my age, and I would look at things like effort when the ball is not in their hands, or when they're not actively defending. Okay. I'd have to see, pretty much because of so much of our technology, and that is pardon the obscureness of me making an iPhone reference when you ask such a questions like this, but what I'm dealing with an iPhone and I'm trying to switch to, so much about today's game has to do with what you're doing when it's right in front of you, and very little participation when you're not the focal point. Okay? If a guy, regardless of position, I'm looking at the player, what is he doing when he is not the focal point? How engaged is he in making sure he's in his right step, whether it be on the offensive or defensive side of the ball? How interested is he in the game when the game is not him? If the play from start to finish is a pick and roll or an ISO, and it doesn't involve that player, how engaged is he in the process to making sure that the play works? That's the first criteria that I think for judging a player. Of course, you want to look at how they perform in the clutch. I'd like to look at what do they do when they do free throw shooting, because that's the easiest basket. I mean, that's the easiest basket attempt that you have.
Ain't nobody guarding you.
Yeah,
if you're a professional, everybody should be hitting at least 90% at the free throw line. Nobody's guarding you. But go ahead.
You should. Right. So those idiosyncrasies, those are the things that I would want to judge. Because I can see the performance. We know the guys that are subject to perform when the lights are on, when they have the ball in their hands. We know what Zion does when the lights are on, when he has the ball, or Ja Morant does when they have the ball. What are they doing when they're not having the ball? Guys that remain engaged in the team's benefit by making switches, calling things out, actively participating, that's my very first criteria that I would want to judge in the era of positionless basketball. What are you doing when it ain't about you? That's the first thing that I would do. From there, the talent, the attributes, the study habits, the weight or whatever else, all of those things don't matter as much as that foundational skill of what are you doing when the ball is not in your hands.
I'm with you on that 1,000%, because what you're saying there kind of lends itself to a discussion I was having with somebody at the 9 to 5. And I was asking the question. I said, fix your mouth to ask who are the top 5 point guards, just for instance, for example, or rather, how do you fix your mouth to say who are the top 5 point guards in an era of positionless basketball, number one? And number two, which actually should have been number one, define point guard in the today NBA. Because by my understanding of what a point guard is it a guy a point guard because he got the letters or acronym next to his name, or is he a point guard in the way that a Rondo or a Chris Paul is what a point guard is? Meaning, does he know how to control the game on both ends of the floor? How to set the tempo, when to, when not to. Can he see things, his anticipatory skills? All of those things are going. See, to me, that's a point guard, i.e., or should I say, a.k.a. Floor general. There's a lot of guys in the NBA who got that acronym next to their name, but by definition, they are anything but. Now, where am I lying at? Oh, they talented. Oh, my gosh. You get your popcorn when you watch some of these guys dribble 152 times, then get to the basket, lay it off the backboard, but then fall out of bounds all up under the first stanchion or whatever it is, hit their head, break their wrist, and then they out in low management. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I going on a tangent? You get the drift. A guy for
I would tell you, one of my favorite point guards to watch during his day is a name that we know of, pretty popular or what have you, but I feel like he was the definition of that, and his stats sometimes show it, but he was 1995 Co-Rookie of the Year. One of my favorite point guards to watch was Jason Kidd, because he was, if nothing else, he was exactly that. And he had the ability to score. I mean, he was a guy that was known for having some triple-doubles. I mean, minimal, 10, 10, and 10. But if you look at that production from a point guard, that means he wasn't really in that era of the 90s where you had known scorers at the other positions. He really didn't. He really got his 10, 10, and 10 complimentary while allowing the other guys to flourish. And he was one of my favorites to watch.
Yeah. Well, like I say, at the end of the day, man, it's hard to grade these guys, And before we move on to the next subject that we're here for today, I just want to go around the room and ask folks, one word answer or one sentence, Brother Rich, how are we supposed to grade today's players? Or we just don't grade them at all? We just say it's 5 on 5.
5 on 5.
Yeah. Double J. How are we supposed to grade them today? Or again, are we just saying it's 5 on 5?
5 on 5.
Exactly. Gully, you going to finish it off? You going to finish the trifecta for us? Is it going to make it a clean sweep? Is it 5 on 5? Or?
Attention to detail.
Yeah.
No, attention to detail.
Oh, okay. Okay. Which players out there are when you watch them, you see that they are, or indeed have in fact did some study, film study, if you would, and are paying attention to detail. In game is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
And these guys can very much still be the dominant scorers and the future revenue makers that the owners desperately need, especially in the pandemic era of sports. They can still be those performers, but even amongst those, who's paying attention to detail? The details, again, that don't involve them. The details that don't involve their stat sheet.
And, and speaking of which, when you say detail, I'm not familiar. Brother Rich, maybe you might, or Double J, one of you, or Gully, you too, y'all might know this a little bit better than me. But who took over for Kobe with that, for his thing called detail? Who took over for that?
Vince Carter.
Did he? I don't know. I haven't seen it since Vince took over, so I won't really say, but well,
I have not either.
Yeah, I'll go out on a limb. I don't know. I don't know if you could replace him, like Alex Trebek for Jeopardy. I don't know if you could replace. I don't know if you could replace that. You can try. You know what I mean? And that's not a knock against Vince, but once Kobe passed, that should have been.
I don't even know how he could step up to try to do it. Honestly,
yeah,
I
know.
When he stepped to do it.
Just like the guy
explanation is perhaps because he spent 22 years in the league. He should have, even if he hadn't done it all, he certainly would have as much of a perspective of seeing it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, a guy like Vince Carter, or if they could have, maybe contracts maybe made that made that impossible. But Reggie Miller, perhaps guys who had,
No.
or even
Oh
Ray
Lord,
Allen.
no. Ray Allen maybe, but Reggie Miller, no. It's hard listening to him doing a TNT broadcast. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, man, who wants to be the guy to try to follow in Martin Luther King's shoes? And when I say follow in Martin Luther King's shoes, who gonna be the guy to walk up to Coretta Scott and say, how you doing today? You know, would you up maybe, like to go out for some coffee and conversation? You can't.
Stop it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say, man. Do you want to be the guy? I wouldn't want to be the guy. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Who wants to be that guy? Yeah, if you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, good stuff, fellas, on the first one. The number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we'd like to remind folks out there that the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit, or, of course, go to their website, rocketdigital.net, and tell them the BSJ sent you. All right, fellas, let's go into our next portion of the program and kind of dive into this little segment I put together. I did it once before, and I wanted to make it a staple, and I think I kind of came up with a way to kind of make this a staple. So, keep your fingers crossed. But going forward, we are now going to be implementing this segment called Take Your Pick. And for this edition of Take Your Pick, I decided to go with Major League Baseball. And here are the two participants on this edition of Take Your Pick: Joe Morgan, Eddie Robinson. Who do I see a show of hands? Who would like to go first and and tell me who you're picking, the Mr. Morgan or the Mr. Robinson, and why? Double J, would you like to try? Or Gully? No, you just now joining us, Gully, and because you were late to the party today, we're going to come to you first. That's how we're going to do this. Who are you picking? Did you do your homework on Eddie Collins, or no, you didn't? No, you didn't do your detail. Okay, all right. Would you like to? No, you didn't. Would you like me all to? I tell you what. Would you like for me all to fill you all in?
All right, listen, how many laps I got to do around the gym, man? I mean, geez, like I said, we had a power outage due to the Buffalo Bills version here.
Okay.
No sympathy, no extra. No, I got to just do my laps. All
Okay.
right, well, I'll do my laps in the Thurman Thomas jersey, at around the stadium here.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and get started.
Yeah, you might as well hit them steps, too, while you're at it. Double J, you want to take a crack at it? And all you're doing right now is telling me who you pick. Who you taking? Joe Morgan or Eddie Collins?
Wow. You say that so casually that like it's that easy to pick.
That's why it's called Take Your Pick. Exactly. Yes, indeedy. That's what I did this for. Yeah. Oh, what is that I see? Let me raise my glasses. Oh, are you sweating over there a little bit, Double J? That's not like you. Usually cool and calm as the other side of the pillow. You know what I'm saying? Clint Eastwood kind. Clint Eastwood style. Yeah. It's a tough one, ain't it? You know, I'm going to take a shot.
It very much so is. I'm going to actually go Joe Morgan.
I mean, FYI, I am too, but it was a tough one. Brother Rich, who you got? Joe Morgan or Eddie Collins?
Well, I certainly was going to say Joe Morgan, and I'll tell you why, because I know of his era, and I know of him, and he's still present in my current Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Collins is somebody I had to go study about and find out what's his relevancy, and certainly his relevancy. He's relevant in winning World Series and,
Exactly.
and playing his part in being an analytically gifted individual if you're putting together something analytically.
Yes.
But with the naked eye, what I've seen in terms of immediate highlights and current memory, I have to go with Joe Morgan.
Yeah, I'm going with Joe Morgan too. Gully, have you made up your mind just yet, or are you still working behind the scenes over there? You cramming?
We're still calculating the votes and tallies. I believe we are sharing the recount, and so we would have those tabulatories here momentarily.
Okay. All right.
But the preliminary outlook looks like Joe Morgan is our projected winner from Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, no offense to Eddie, Mr. Collins, but I think it's a clean sweep. We all picking Joe Morgan. And speaking of Joe Morgan, he more so than what he did on the baseball field, and I'm getting ready to get into all of that, and Mr. Collins as well. But he says something about analytics before analytics even became a thing that it just, I mean, I tip my hat to the guy, man. He said percentages. Which, of course, we all know are the analytics. You know, people base it off on probabilities. Well, they got a 30% chance based on the BPIs and all that kind of stuff. He said percentages hold up over the course of a season. But for one game, one at-bat, one moment, he said throw them percentages out the window. You understand? Look, in the game of football in the NFL, look, man, throw the percentages out the window. Go get me. It's 4th and 1. Go get me a yard. Okay? Because what we were discussing in our other topic, when we talked about thinking the game, who thinks the game the best, give me the guy who thinks the game and is fundamentally sound. I'll take that team over your athleticism any day, all day. And I'll win more than the analytics would say that I should. I bet you that. Because I'm going to outthink you. And I'm fundamentally sound. What you going to do with that? Oh, and by the way, that Miami Heat team that you mentioned, Brother Rich, yeah. Tell me this in this current era how they don't embody that. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. I'm just checking. Well, let me tell you about my man Joe Morgan and Mr. Eddie Collins. And here's why I picked both. According to Bleacher Report, and I don't know if I would say this, but I guess you could, they say that Morgan is the greatest second baseman ever. Now, before we go into what his credentials were, would you all agree with that? Would you all say, because we know enough about baseball here on this panel to make, I think, to answer that question. You think he was the greatest second baseman ever, Double J? You think so, too?
Well, I think without a doubt, you could absolutely make that claim.
Okay. Well, here's the story on Joe Morgan, or the bio, or his credentials. In his 22-year career, Morgan had a .271 batting average, a .392 on-base percentage, 268 home runs, 1,133 RBI, 1,650 runs scored, 2,517 base hits, and 689 stolen bases. He was selected to the All-Star team 10 times, starting at second for 7 of them. He was also one of the best defensive second basemen ever, winning 5 consecutive Gold Glove awards in the mid-'70s. He won 1 Silver Slugger award, which that kind of threw me. I was taken aback by that. I thought he would have won more Silver Slugger awards, but 1 is fine, because that is still an achievement, was an All-Star Game MVP in 1972 and won back-to-back MVP awards in 1975 and 76. He was also a great leader and a winner, of course, as he led his teams to the World Series 4 times, winning 2 of them. And we all know that team, of course, when he was with the Reds to be what? The Big Red Machine. Impressive, to say the least. Now, we move on over to my man, Eddie Robinson. And it was, Double J, to be honest with you, when I was looking to find, Joe Morgan was already one of my first picks for this, right? But I was saying, who could I get that really would have folks, throw this whole thing in a tizzy? And I was torn between Collins and none other than, well, it was 2 other guys. I couldn't decide who I wanted to pick until I finally settled on Collins. Lou Whitaker, Rod Carew. Those are my honorable mentions. Lou Whitaker was no joke, and neither was Rod Carew. But, and I don't know, the Bleacher Reports, they got Craig Biggio and Jeff Kent on there. I don't know about all of that. But anyway, here is the rundown, or the credentials for Mr. Eddie Collins, and here's why I picked him. They say he was one of the best hitters ever. He had a .333 career average in 25 years with the Athletics and the White Sox. He played in baseball. Now, even though he played in the early 1900s, 1914, 15, 20s, and so on and so forth, but my goodness, man, 25 years? Who could you say, just off the top of your head, Double J, who would you say played in baseball for that length of time, 20 some odd years? Cal Ripken, maybe?
That's about it.
Yeah,
Maybe Mariano
Rivera. Yeah. Oh, Rivera. How long?
He was there for a while.
Yeah, I know he was. How long was Rivera there, off the top of your head, Brother Rich, in New York with the Yankees?
Man,
15.
Come on, that. Yeah, easily 15.
Yeah, at least easily.
15.
Yeah, but 25 years. I mean, I don't care what decade it was or however you want to put that. That's impressive, man. But of course, he played with that 25-year covered two teams, the Athletics and the White Sox. He only had 47 home runs, but he drove in 1,300, scored 1,821 times, stole 744 bases, and had 3,315 base hits, and helped the Athletics to the World Series 6 times, winning 4. And here's what I thought was really interesting, and I'll pose this as a question to you all. He was never selected to the All-Star team because there wasn't an All-Star game during his prime. However, he won the American League MVP in 1914 with the Athletics with a .344 average and a .452 on-base percentage. He ranks 7th all-time in career stolen bases and finished in the top 5 in MVP voting 5 times. So actually, it's 2 questions off of there. He was never selected to an All-Star team because there wasn't an All-Star game. Based on his credentials, let's say he's playing in this modern era right now, or in the era where there was an All-Star game, right? Based on those credentials, how many times, Gully, do you think that he would have made the All-Star team? As many as Pete Rose?
Absolutely. I mean, you already defined a player of the decade, a player of decades, with that amount of production, and he has clutch performing as he was, in regular season when you build up those stats. So yeah, definitely.
Double J, had he, Mr. Collins, played in this era, of course, the era of an All-Star game being held, with his credentials, how many All-Star appearances do you think he had? Would have had?
I would say at least 12.
Okay, I forget how many Pete had. So you saying he would be a little bit under Pete then?
Yeah, and again, part of that has to do with just the era in the lack of long balls.
Wow. Okay, got you. Okay, got you. Brother Rich, what do you say? If he played in this,
he's a perennial all-star.
A perennial all-star.
He's a perennial all-star.
A perennial all-star.
I think you're right when you mentioned Jeter. I think he puts you in the mind of our modern day, version of a Jeter. And without a doubt, a past-gone era of Jeter. Jeter is his reflection as we looked at him and said, this guy, come on, man, you had no doubt about him in terms of Derek Jeter's going to be there. He's going to make it. You're there with him. He's doing his part.
Yeah, for sure. A .452 on-base percentage, Double J, is that impressive in any era? Or is that par for the course nowadays?
I'm saying any era.
Okay, so give me, off the top of your head, man, just give me, who do you think has the best on-base percentage in the last 5 years? And and I'm talking about like a number. Just even if you don't have to be exact, just like
my man out in the Bay Area, out in Anaheim.
Oh, Trout. That's who you
Trout.
think?
That's what I was.
You thinking of Mike Trout? Yeah. What? I don't know. Can Gully? You think maybe you can look that up for me? What Mike Trout's on base percentage is, or average wise or whatever? What'd you say?
Yeah, I'm putting it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Double J, a 452 on base percentage, man. I mean, where does that rank at? I say we don't like to do rankings here, but my goodness, how can you not ask where it rank at? Because that number just seems astronomically high. That's like a guy almost batting 400 or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's top 5 because you got to remember Ted Williams, I think, is first overall and he was just shy of 49%.
Oh, wow. That's
actually current active leader in OBP. Isn't Mike Trout, though Mike Trout is high on the list. It's that guy, Joey Votto.
Really?
Believe it or not.
From the Reds?
Yep, with a 419. Yep,
What?
with a 419. Joey Votto is the current active leader. He's in terms of all-time ranking, he's currently 18th. Mike Trout is 22nd.
So that puts it in perspective. This dude had a 452 on-base percentage. That's insane, man. That's insane. I don't even want to try to get to do the breakdown on how many times. I mean, he was getting on base, what? For every 10 at-bats, he was getting on base 11 times? I'm being cynical. I mean, facetious. But you get, that's like saying you're doing it 9 times out of 8. That's insane, man, for any era. So there it is, fellas. That's our Take Your Pick. I hope you all enjoyed the 2 picks, or, maybe next week when we come here.
Indeed.
What? What'd you say?
I said indeed.
Oh,
It
wow.
didn't involve the Cowboys. It didn't involve the Dallas Cowboys. We didn't have to pick between them and the Dallas.
Yeah, got you. The Texas Rangers. Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah, your favorite team on the low.
Well,
yeah.
I think to take your pick. Next week should be the left shoe or the right shoe.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah. The one. You mean the one double?
In terms of your mama about to get you because it's something you did. Which one would you rather take, the left shoe or the right shoe? You know what I mean? I done had them both, and I tell you what, the results are
they're the same. What you talking about? You
like
had them. Yeah, they are the same. What you talking about? The left shoe or the right shoe? They both hurt. If you did something you ain't had no business doing. Yeah, all right. If you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we'd like to remind you, the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. Lastly, fellas, before we get out of here, as always, up until this point, it's good stuff. Please let us not act up like we're known for doing. 2 people I know, 10 Speed and Brown Shoe. Oh, my bad. No names, please. We'll just take a quick peek into this 2021 NBA season. Now, I know I've said it here on more than one occasion. I don't watch the games like I used to, but at the start of this season, man, I've seen a few things that I got to just point out here right quick that kind of caught my eye, given that I still got sons who are into the game and they want me to watch the games with them, so as not to disappoint them and, to fall asleep and things of that nature. And, of course, it's a little bonding time for me and my sons. I sit down and watch some of these games. I tried to sit down and watch some of these games. But there were 2 things that stood out to me over the first 4 games of this current season. Number 1, Kevin Durant looks pretty darn good for a guy who had a non-contact injury and tore his Achilles. I get that medicine is a lot more modern now than it was even when I had my surgeries, and it was modern as all get out then. I would drop a name, the guy who did my surgery on my left knee and, cleaned me up a time or 2 when I had to have arthroscopic. I won't say his name, but I will say he was the Cleveland Browns doctor. Excuse me. Shout out to my man Herm down the way, baby. It's all good. Jay is representing. But that dude looked like he ain't lost a beat, man. Are they a threat, the Nets, Brother Rich, to your beloved Lakers?
Without a doubt.
without a doubt.
Any team that has Kevin Durant on it, coupled with Kyrie Irving, and the mix of those young, good players,
Yeah, they got a nice.
that team is a threat.
Yeah.
I watched them dismantle the team that they played the other day for Christmas Day. That first game, I only watched 2 games, and I wanted to see them, and they dismantled the team they were playing.
Yeah.
They ran through them, and they look good together on the court. He is absolutely, and this is where you asked us earlier about the era of positionless basketball. What position do you put that young man in? He can play any position on the court. He, for real, can bring the ball up court. He can, for real, shoot the 3. He can legitimately post up. He can do anything you want on a basketball court.
Yeah, fantastic basketball player.
Yeah. I got to tell you, because, again, I get that these guys are professional athletes and they're going to get the best of care because, you know, they got millions of dollars riding on them, folks that invested on them in them and so on and so forth. So they're going to get the top-notch medical attention in regards to any type of injury. But a non-contact torn Achilles is about as bad as it gets. And when you have the surgeries, in other words, the medicine now is such that it can get you back on the court quicker. Like, for instance, the time frame for just an everyday active person like myself at the time, when you rupture a patella tendon, the time frame is a year. Whereas the guy told me at the time, he said, number one, we didn't see a lot of these at the time. He said, but if this happened prior to you know, some years ago, he said, man, it would take 2 or 3 years. So, yes, the time frame of getting a guy back on the court or the field is a lot quicker. But the psychological hurdle, the doctors can't do nothing for that. And it's human nature. You can't tell me, I don't care what level you're playing on. If you've had a rupture of any sort and you got to go back to do that, that's why that's why I tip my hat to football players, man. Guys like Mark Schreller, I listened to him one time say he had 27 knee surgeries. That's insane. We look at Alex Smith. If you saw Alex Smith's leg 4 months ago, there's no way in the world he should be suiting up playing football. He shouldn't even be playing Tecmo Bowl. No offense to my Tecmo Bowlers out there. You get what I'm saying? Excuse me. It's a psychological thing, man. The last thing you want to do when you go back out there to play again, especially if that's your livelihood, it's got to be in your mind, man. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to. I mean, who was it some years ago? Sam Bowie. Sam Bowie kind of had the same deal. You know, he kept breaking stuff, man.
He never recovered.
That's what I'm saying. You know, it's a yeah. And I watched Kevin Durant. I watched the Christmas Day game too, and I'm like, man, this dude, he looked like he ain't missed a beat, mentally or physically. That could lightweight be scary. We got a caller on the line. Caller, tell us your name and tell us where you're calling from.
Yo, it's your man Doc, man. Come on, I'm calling all the way out here from Canton, Michigan, brother.
Doc, what's the deal, man? Hey, man, you know I got a bone to pick with you, man. How you gonna leave me up here?
It's been a while, man.
How you gonna leave me up here to deal with these two, Double J and Brother Rich? You know they've been attacking me, man, for the last 22 months, man. Where you been, man?
Been working, dog, but I've been missing. Man, I wish I could call in and help.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, as long as you know what I'm saying, as long as you on standby, that's all good. I mean, you know, we got to do what we got to do as far as life is concerned. Life come first.
All you gotta do is shoot me a message. You know I'll come help out.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I hate that we just not being able to get you in on the last portion of this whole action right here. But the other part of what the thing that caught my eye this early on in the 2021 season. The Cavs are 3-0. Who saw that coming? But before I go into all of that, I'll let you answer, Doc. This whole idea about the Nets and KD and Kyrie and so on and so forth. Are they a challenge to the Lakers, man? In your opinion?
Nah, that's my squad. I never sit there and say, yeah, KD, Kyrie, and Jimmy. Victory against the Lakers.
You breaking up? You breaking up a little bit. When you start talking, you sound a little choppy.
Oh, my bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yep, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I don't think they're a threat. It'll be a good series, but I don't think it. Not my Lakers anyway. I don't know. I don't think they're.
You don't think they're a threat?
No, I think it'll be a good series. Maybe 6, maybe 7 games, but at the end of the day, with low management and how Kyrie and KD, you know, as far as health wise go, they can't stay healthy to save their life. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
One of them are bound to go down for at least a couple of those playoff games, and now you are out one of your superstars. And what you gonna do with LeBron and Kyle Kuzma and Schroeder and Anthony Davis? Like, we loaded over here in LA. And we got Montrezl Harrell now.
Oh my gosh! Oh, Doc, you a Lakers fan, man? Seriously, I had to hear this on national.
Been a Lakers fan.
Don't forget the rep.
They're in the refs. Been Lakers fans since Kobe days. You know, I first started liking basketball when Kobe was there, and I never left.
Oh, it's all good. Okay, long you pay homage to my man KB Great 24/8. I can't be mad at you at all. Double J. So far, this on this young NBA season, that we sitting here, we talking about the Nets. What KD and coming back looked like he ain't missed a beat. Are you impressed by the Nets? Are they a threat to the Lakers? Or who, in your opinion, would you say is more impressive, maybe, or just as impressive on this young season than the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, regarding the Nets, I was initially they looked like they were in midseason form those first two games. The concern that I have now is the loss of Spencer Dinwiddie for the year, and
I was
they've
going there
lost
next.
their last. So it'll be very interesting to see if come the trade deadline or depending on how they adjust. And this is where, with Steve Nash being a first-year head coach, obviously that came under immense scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it even on the program with regarding the draft, but just coaching in general. This is where all of this comes into play. So it'll be something certainly to keep an eye on. But beyond them, who's been impressive to me, well, I would love to tip the cap to Cleveland in what they've been able to do. But again, they're struggling right now, down 10, looking like they're going to drop this game to the Knicks. So,
really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know
really.
I didn't even know they were playing this evening, and they playing the Knicks. Boy, let's not even talk about Knicks. The Knicks had 12 players.
Wait.
The Knicks had 12 players all wearing the same jersey. We're wearing number 23. And it's been that many years since y'all. Never mind. I'm just saying, I don't mean to pick on the Knicks, but I'm just saying, y'all, they got to get rid of Dolan.
That's terrible.
They got to get rid of Dolan. Well, I seen that on TV the other day. What'd you say?
Coming to your question and point, prior to us getting to this segment when we did, my actual pick was as far as who I'm actually most impressed by is not going to really be anybody's darling. It was going to be the Indiana Pacers.
Man, yeah. Oh,
the addition of Holiday, being able to again be 6 deep, which is again is critical. Do I think they can again win it all? No, but as far as being impressive this early in the season, I definitely they looked like they had staying power to contend in the East, while some of the other teams, as we just talked about, between the Nets or even Milwaukee, have stumbled a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But they came out flat in the fourth quarter. They've been outscored 26-6 during the fourth quarter against Boston, and now they're down 9 themselves. So again, that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, it's still early. I just thought we'd take a peek in to see how some of these teams have started off and whether or not if we think they can maintain it and so on and so forth. Right back to the Brooklyn Nets, right quick. Spencer Dinwiddie. See, I don't know. It's 2 reports. One report I heard that he tore his ACL. The other report I heard was it was partially torn.
It's a partial.
Okay, well, that's a big difference.
It's a partial.
That's a big difference. If it's completely torn, then you might be done for the season, to be honest with you. And if you're not, then
He's done for the season anyway.
Oh, is he?
They're holding him out for the rest of the year.
Oh,
He's
really?
done for the rest of the year.
Really? Okay, so wow.
If he's smart, he should be done for the rest of the year.
Really? Well, partial tear, you can come back from a partial tear in the same sentence. to be honest with you. But I
True,
mean,
but why risk your body? You know what I'm saying? Why put yourself out way before you reach your prime for a little bit of money now when you can rest up?
Yeah,
and get better. You know, it's the longevity of it. You know, you got to think about your future because once you leave the NBA, if you didn't graduate or do anything or got a backup plan, this is it for a lot of kids. So,
yeah.
Nothing wrong with waiting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Because we all saw what happened to Grant Hill when he tried to, win one for the team or take one for the team, so to speak. Yeah. But you know who else I like for the Nets? Karis LeVert, man.
Injury though.
Say that again.
Early enough in the season.
What'd you say, Gully?
This type of injury happened early enough in the season, where we can see, you're right about rushing back. I mean, Kevin Durant of all players knows the hazards of rushing back to the court. What it could do. So I think having that hindsight and having a player who's dealt with exactly this injury before, he probably maybe would have a bit of influence over what type of decision he might make for himself. But it's happened early enough that if the Nets go deep enough in the postseason and truly come out as the potential favorites out of the East, if nothing else, then we may be able to see him back. Hopefully, he doesn't force himself for the sake of trying to get that prize here and alters his career. But it's a tough injury, and I think it's one of those kind of like in a larger scale. It's one of those injuries that can change a lot of things for a team when it's not your star player. Like it's like almost like we remember how well the Mavericks handled the loss of Caron Butler the year they won the title. And how instrumental Caron Butler was for that Mavericks team.
Yes.
That propelled that team to a finals. So hopefully maybe you still have that same effect where even in his absence, the team was strong enough to be able to survive it.
Man, that is a good point. And as always, man, I appreciate y'all, for being with us today, man. This is always good stuff. But before we get out of here and wrap things up, I want to go around the room. Doc, we'll come to you first. Is it too early to ask who you got in the finals this year? Or should we wait until the All-Star break, you know what I mean, and then and that's another question. Maybe we'll do that for another show, being that it's going to be a 72-game season. I wonder when the All-Star break is going to be held. Interesting. Yeah, we'll say that for another show. But, yeah, who you got early on, man? Who's your early combatants for the finals?
Early on, you already know I got the Lakers coming out the West.
Of course.
You already know they coming out the West.
Okay.
Then the East, I know I just talked smack about them, but it's either going to be the Nets or I believe the Celtics.
Yeah, a lot of people picking the Celtics. You don't think that the Nuggets or the Blazers are a threat to the Lakers at all?
My Lakers. Who's a threat to them with the team they got right now? LeBron, I hate him, but when you get in playoff mode, when you get everybody else moving, and you got people hitting their shots, it's hard to slow that team down. I don't see nobody beating like Denver. They'll give them a run for their money like they did last year. Everybody's gonna give them a good run for their money. They're all good teams. They're not just dirt teams. You know what I'm saying? But outside of a run for their money, they ain't losing.
All right. I mean, as a purist, I can't sit there and say that. Especially with the addition of Schroeder, on paper and on the parquet, you got to watch out for them Lakers.
Point guard they needed.
Yeah, a guy who can score. But I'm Team Rondo though, man. I'm all for a floor general. I see so many bad shots, man. It just grinds my gears, if you would. Brother Rich, is it too early to ask?
I don't think it's too early in the NBA. The NBA is a league that we can kind of project year in and year out from kind of start to finish. And barring injury, I'm forced to agree that I see it's going to be the Lakers and the Nets. And that's unfortunately what's wrong with the league is that we don't see any teams really challenging because of the structure, because of the talent, because of what we're talking about earlier. So the Lakers and the Nets, unfortunately.
Yeah, Double J, what about you, man? Who you got? Or is it too early for you to say?
Well, just to kind of clarify, the All-Star game this year is canceled.
Is it?
To my understanding, that it was supposed to be in Indianapolis. They moved it to 2024 for that city specifically. So it looks like next year's the 22 will go on with with whichever city was predetermined. But speaking of predetermined, as Brother Rich just pointed out, the predetermined finals, which is, of course, the Lakers going for that repeat, and I believe they will achieve exactly that against Kevin Durant and Kyrie. So, in theory, this is LeBron versus his former ally and other arch nemesis, if you will. But, I mean, I could even go out on a further limb with conference finals in the East between, Milwaukee and Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, Doc, you don't have to worry about that. I heard you say, whoa. This is the show, apparently, as of late.
You lost me with that one.
This is the show as of late where the subject is outlandish takes. That's what we need. That should be another segment. Outlandish takes. But, hey, this is what we do here. It's all love, baby. It's all love. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Milwaukee. But for whatever reason, I got a feeling if things, like Brother Rich said, barring injury and things stay the course as they've started out this early on in the season, it may, in the Eastern Conference Finals, it may end up being the Celtics and the Nets. Because Jason Tatum, he done did something.
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, them two dudes, man, they do not like you. I'm just trying to say, you know what I mean? And the question was posed.
1-2 punch.
Yeah, the question was posed to me a couple of weeks ago. Man, why Doc? Going back over our history of my era, why Doc and Bird didn't like each other? And I think Doc did an interview. He said, "Man, I ain't had nothing against Larry Bird, but I mean, come on, man. He wanted what I wanted. I wanted what he wanted. So somebody had to get choked out a couple times." You know what I'm saying? He said, "But Larry Bird, man, I tip my hat to that dude. I got much mad respect for him. But the point is." You know what I mean? He got what I want. He got the chips, so we gonna do battle. If he in the same building as I'm in, then or the same conference that I'm in, then guess what? Then what I'm supposed to do? Just sit back and just let not fight for getting titles and winning divisions or whatever the case. Nah, man, nah. He want it, I want it. So we gonna see who get it. You know what I'm trying to tell you. But, yeah, Gully, who you got, man? Or is it too early for you to tell? Who you got in the finals?
I'm trying to remember. Did we
Well, don't do that because, if you say – when you start off saying it like that, you sound like me in the senior moment. I'm trying to remember. That's my line. But go ahead.
He's trying to remember. He's trying to remember the Buffalo had a senior moment. We've forgotten, that the Miami Heat are still – in the Eastern Conference.
Well,
the Miami Heat still, despite everything that's happened, the Miami Heat still made it to the NBA Finals. I feel like with more time, they probably could chill. I don't know that I'm outright picking them, but I mean to be
saying don't forget them.
I think it's.
You said
don't
forget
not
them.
At all. Don't
but hold on.
I feel like a team.
Hold that thought, Gully.
That makes it out of the season.
Hold that thought. It sounded to me like the guy out in California is living in the gated community, counting the dog hairs. He sounded like he had something to say. I thought I heard him say something. He was just saying facts.
I'm trying to figure out who discounted them. We simply said that we talked about a projection.
No, you said something about Buffalo.
And by the way, yeah.
Don't try to.
By the way, he was trying to remember the Buffalo. I know Gully was when he was having his senior moment. I said he was trying to remember did Buffalo still have a basketball team. I was telling him no, the Braves have to. But while I was telling, him that, I was also saying that the Miami Heat played host to the Disney production that was the NBA final. Let's not take them seriously. Let's not take them too seriously, okay? They're going to be who we thought they are, all right?
What?
They're going to be who
you just gave them.
Well, let them off the hook, huh?
See what I'm saying? See how you do?
Green's going to come back to hunt you yet again, Brother Rich, because it came back to hunt you already when you said that about Buffalo.
You see what I'm saying?
Back to hunt you. It's going to
now he gave him.
What he just did, what Brother Rich just did was just tell us that Miami is going to either, if they don't make it, they're going to wreck. It's like what they call it, the spoiler.
They're going to be the spoiler. Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah,
got you.
Let's not make sure that they don't meet Brooklyn before the conference finals, because somebody's going to be upset.
Doc,
it ain't going to be Miami.
Doc, you see what I'm saying? You see how they do here on this program? He just gave them credit. Now he's saying they ain't going to be in it. Look, I can't make this stuff up, man. This is why we come here every week. You know what I mean? Because, we've got things going on.
I give them the playoffs, but not the finals.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. And did the NBA make something? Did they do something in addition to it being a 72-game schedule? It's still 8 teams make the playoffs, right? Wasn't they talking about doing some reseeding? Or that didn't fell off that's off the table now? Like 1 through 16? What, say that again?
It's still being discussed.
Oh, is it?
Reseeding so that it's still being discussed.
Yeah, and I heard that Adam Silver come out a couple of days and say something about the expansion. Be ready for that, too. Put the Supersonics back in Seattle, man. Yeah, put the Supersonics back in Seattle. I know we won't see no Glove and Sean Hamburger Kemp and none of that kind of stuff, or Hersey Hawkins, or Detlef Shrimp, or should I say Detlef Scrimp? You know what I mean? But yeah, this Seattle needed.
Here's a hypothetical for you before we get out of here, because you said about the Hamburger Kemp. Did you know in 1994? The Sonics had executed and completed a trade for Scottie Pippen, and the Seattle fan base went nuts. And because of their fan base went nuts, the Supersonics organization rescinded the trade.
Who was they supposed to be? Yeah, I didn't know that either. Who were they supposed?
Sean Kemp was going to be traded to Chicago for Scottie Pippen.
Oh my!
Because remember. Seattle actually drafted Scottie Pippen.
Yes, I do remember.
And he was a draft night trade. He was a draft day trade. Wow. And so they actually executed a trade in 94 to acquire Scottie Pippen.
Get out
and
of
the fan base said, nah.
Can you imagine that? Sean Kemp with Jordan, would that have been better? Ooh, I don't know. I
think it would have lasted longer. Because I feel like
not with Sean Kemp.
Jordan, first of all, you wouldn't have in this ride, man.
No.
You needed in this ride. You probably would have had more depth around that team because of Sean Kemp. But that would have been tough. That would have been really tough. Because you got to think about it on the other side.
Down low.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you got to think about on the other side. You'd have had Gary Payton with Scottie Pippen.
Ooh.
Imagine that.
Ooh, that is interesting. Yeah. Ooh, wee. But Sean Kemp, man, I don't know what it was when he got hit. He just couldn't stop eating. But when he was at his peak, though, the Rain Man was no joke, boy. He was no joke, none whatsoever. But my goodness, could you imagine that? You talking about post up? My gosh, they would have been killing in the paint because the game was still being played the inside out back then. So my gosh, yeah.
It was positions back then.
Yeah, it was positions exactly. It was positions, and then Well, back then I was all into college basketball because the way it was, college basketball still had a purity to it that you just couldn't pass up. But Scottie Pippen, I remember him at Central Arkansas. I mean, I didn't know he would turn out to be the player that he is, but one thing that jumped off the screen to me when I watched him at Central Arkansas, he was a defensive stalwart then, and it translated when he got to the NBA. But yeah, that would have been ooh-wee. But yeah, put the Supersonics back in Seattle, man, and stop playing. As a matter of fact, they might probably need to move. What's the name of that team? OKC. They might need to move them back to Seattle. Sam Presti. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan whatsoever. Fellas, as always, it was good stuff. I appreciate y'all being on the P-Rogram with me. My man Doc happened to join us. Came a little late to the party, but always glad to have you, man. And on that note,
good to be here, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening. Don't forget to check us out right here on Spreaker.com. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, and, of course, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, please give us a follow. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can hop on over to the shop's Facebook fan page. And if that don't work, Google it for my man's Be Rich, Double J, Doc, D. Gully from the CLM Bus. And all those who follow and support us, we say thank you. I'm Barbershop Jay, and you've been listening to the Shop Report. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla.
How about them Cowboys?